As we continue our reflections on prayer and what it means for us as God's people to call on Him, is particularly in regards to the lament, we are going to today talk about the third C in those laments with Max Fisher, who is one of our consultants. Hey, welcome, Max.
Hey, good to be here, Dan.
Awesome. Glad to have you, buddy. So, the four C's of the lament, for those of you who are following along with us: crying out to God, complaining to God, calling God to action, and then expressing confidence in God and in His promises. Today, we're going to talk about calling God to action. And one of the Bible passages I think that this is so profound is when Moses is leading God's people out of Egypt and they are stuck. They've got an angry army behind a mountain, and they've got a Red Sea that's blocking their path, and Moses is surrounded by a whole bunch of angry people. And he calls on God's people to wait on the Lord, saying that God is going to act. God is going to do something that only God can do. And Max, as we get to work with congregations, I would love for you to share maybe a story or two about opportunities or things that you've seen God do in the lives of our congregations we're working with that only God could do.
Well, I think right away about St. Mark's in Flint, Michigan. When we were able to walk with that church, all we did was help them to see the stuff that God was already putting on their hearts, putting in their campus, putting in their community, and pointing them in the right direction. I felt like a church that maybe forgot that it could ask,
Mm.
that God did have good things in store for them, that He wanted them to be able to share the gospel in the community. But with their leadership and the people there of the congregation, when they heard it, when they saw it, when they were given opportunities, the excitement in their face, it was awesome.
Very cool. And Max, if you could just kind of think of another time, different situation, maybe there was something that was really hard that a church was dealing with, where you got to see God do something that was maybe completely unexpected.
Yeah, I'll talk about my own experience. I served at a church in New Melly, Missouri, named St. Paul's. And it was a church that was really on its last leg. There wasn't a whole lot of members left, but the ones that were there weren't done yet, which thanks be to God, because the community, a lot of them thought we were done. And to be able to reinvigorate them and say, hey, we can look to what God has in store for us with hopefulness, that we still have a role to play. We just got to ask, we got to seek, and we have to discern what that might be for us. It changes people's lives. Disciples aren't meant to sit around and do nothing and despair. We're not called to despair. We're called to hope, and that hope should be living and active in Jesus Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really good stuff. And I'm just thinking about different situations that I've, been a part of, and some situations where God's people honestly had lost hope. And I'm afraid that sometimes when we lose hope, that we limit God to what we think we can do, even subconsciously. Do you get what I'm saying there, Max? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. The congregation in Missouri was an older population surrounded by a totally changing landscape. Rural was becoming suburban. Young people were starting to make up their community, and they didn't speak the language. They didn't understand the direction and the vision of this new generation. Uh, so what are they going to do? And I think some of them were thinking that themselves. But when they realized that because they had the gospel, because they had Christ, they had something to offer, it changed their direction entirely. I think about St. Mark's too, Dan. That's a church that is surrounded by a community that literally looks different than they do, different demographic, different types of culture and backgrounds, in a place where the church had been for a long time since its founding. Everything around them's new. What could they possibly do other than let it go
Hmm.
or decline? Not St. Mark's, not after they realize that they really do have a place in that community and that they belong there and that Jesus put them there for a reason.
Yeah, and so I really hope that you are encouraged in this reflection as we consider what it means to call to God, to recognize that God is not limited by the things that limit us. He is not going to be bound by the things that bind us. And so for us as God's people, as we are seeking Him in prayer, as we are calling Him to action, let us pray boldly so that we can go forward boldly in faith, following where He leads us. Hey, thanks a bunch, Max. We'll look forward to seeing you soon, buddy.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Dan.
All right. Thank you.